Hello everyone and welcome to Game 2 in a series between Rine and DarkForce. Game 2 taking place here on Shattered Temple. Here we have Rine spawning as the yellow Protoss player once again. Meanwhile, DarkForce spawning as the blue Zerg on the far side of the map, wishing each other good luck, good game at the very start. Now, Shattered Temple, a map fairly similar to Metalopolis. The locations of the bases are in the same places generally. There is just a much wider open area here in the center portion of the map with only one Zelnaga watchtower. So it is much easier to get your army across the map than, say, in any of the other matchups. There are also still 4 spawning locations, as we'll see what Rine tries to do in this particular matchup. Rine was very lucky and aggressive, or not lucky, I guess aggressive in his expansion attempt, and was able to get a strong economic lead. However, DarkForce responded by doing a double expand before the 8-minute mark, and was able to simply catch up and then out macro his opponent, going into eventual Broodlords. Broodlords, one of those units where I always want to see them used, but unfortunately a lot of the times Zerg players don't protect them, don't know how to use them well, and just end up complaining about their tier 3 units, how they're unable to really be that successful. DarkForce used them very effectively by making sure that he was able to fight over dead space and making it even more difficult for those stalkers to get into range. We are going to see a probe now making its way over here, already doing a quick cross spawn check, and now simply getting inside the space already. We are going to get into fast Zerglings once more. So the pressure will be coming in, and is this going to be another expansion attempt by Rine? That does seem to be the case. And wow, a Nexus first here on Shattered Temple. And I am curious as to how this is going to work out, especially since there is no pylon on the low ground to start walling this in. And I cannot, I got to imagine that DarkForce is simply going to try to punish Rine for going this particular route. We are going into a forge already, needs to get another pylon in over here, but the Zerglings, I believe, can simply run by and get that damage. A Queen now being trained for Zerglings, metabolic boost already being started, and it is going to be a little bit of time before that pylon is completed. As soon as that pylon is completed, it's going to be even more time before the cannons are in play. And I believe a cannon is a 40-second build time, or is it a 45? One cannon over here, it is a 40-second build time, and by building the photon cannon here, it is going to be enough to protect this pylon and also protect this Nexus once more. Zerglings instead going to just deal some damage back towards this probe. Probe down to 16 hit points. There it goes, getting absolutely cleaned up. And how is this going to work? Another pylon being warped in here. If the Zerglings were actually able to make their way up that ramp, I don't think that the Zerglings can actually squeeze in through here. And with another building being placed down here, yeah, the gateway being placed down here, this is a nice natural tower defense way of building your front door, making it very difficult for Zerglings to be able to sneak by at all. Zerglings, well, it's 6 of them, or 5 of them perhaps going to try to run by this front door. It is not going to be successful, as only a Roach Warren would be able to, would allow Roaches to come in here, snipe down this pylon, and then get some damage onto this gateway. We are going to get an Overlord in this position. He sees this wall off over here. The Zerglings now going to try to run by, get some damage onto those Zerglings, and now simply just going to run by this unit over here. 3 Zerglings inside the base, and now getting a lot of scouting information, trying to poke apart at the forge, perhaps going to pick off some probes one at a time. The Zerglings now backing off, perhaps getting some more damage onto one of those pylons would be very successful, as well as the Zerglings now just slashing away at the forge. The forge does have a decent amount of hit points, but the Zerglings are pretty much going to go unchallenged so far, and now go back in, trying to get some damage onto some probes. Zerglings once again coming back around, has that natural regeneration for the win on those Zerglings to try to just get a lot of damage and put more and more pressure onto those Zerglings. We are teching the tier 2, but this time around, it is going to be very difficult for DarkForce to try to establish a third base. The Zealot now quickly coming in over here, and now has to be very careful. The Zerg is now going to once again put some pressure. Will he be able to take down one probe? Yes, at least one probe was taken down. Perhaps a second probe can get taken down as well. If the 2 probes are going to be taken down, that would be a decent trade and exchange. Rine now once again coming back in, going after probe after probe, and still putting some pressure onto the forwards. The Zealot now trying to make its way over, but that Zealot is much, much slower, and with no additional units currently being trained, that's going to be even more difficult as the Zerglings trying to catch up, unable to swarm that last probe, any of the lower hit point probes there, and backing off. The Zealot already with 1 kill, that Zergling down to 8 hit points, wants to try to get some damage as now a probe making its way across the center. We are going for the pneumatized carapaces and the ventral sacks, so this may be a straight drop into the base. This would be very, very interesting as the creep tumors already coming into play now. We are perhaps going to be ramping up into production. Once again, the more spawn larvae hitting up on both of the bases, as well as the ventral sacks and pneumatized carapaces are going to allow a drop straight into the base here, and that is going to be a lot of damage to be had. The Zealot finishing off that lone Zergling to the south, and now going into robotics facility and 1 photon cannon there. The drop play is going to be absolutely perfect, perhaps even going for Baneling carpet bombing runs into the mineral lines. Taking a look at the harvester count, 42 probes versus 34 drones. A very significant economic advantage by Rine at this stage in the game. You can see how it translates into twice the amount of gas and only falling slightly behind in terms of minerals. We are perhaps going to get an elevator drop. No, not an elevator drop, just straight Zergling drop into the base here. It is going to be an elevator. No, Baneling's now going to be morphed instead. And DarkForce already in position. The ventral sacks nearing completion. An observer now trying to be trained. But those Zerglings and Banelings morphing in are going to get so much damage into this base so easily. You can see that those Banelings now simply just running straight into this location here. A poor Zealot now being forced to back off. And now there is 1 photon cannon. Zerglings now just simply swarming into the location. Zerglings now coming in as the Banelings are going to perhaps try to do some carpet bombing runs into the mineral line here. A Zealot now trying to come over, but Banelings dropping straight in, and beautifully done. The Banelings perhaps should be going after any of those additional units there. Another bombing run into that location would work out very, very well. The Zerglings now perhaps going to start swarming after those additional units, and now are we going to get another carpet bombing run is the key question there. Perhaps dropping straight onto those probes, and beautifully done. You can see the workers killed, 25. And DarkForce completely catching Rine off guard. He now needs to warp in some additional cannons and pylons. There are already another batch of Banelings coming into play, and DarkForce just absolutely using and abusing the Zerg here, and just playing this relatively brilliantly, or absolutely brilliantly. 1 photon cannon gonna be coming online. Perhaps he should be pushing into the natural expansion now, as opposed to the main base. Zerglings now swarming in once more, and just dropping off the Zerglings instead. You can see Banelings are coming in, taking down the Zealots already. Down goes, no, the photon cannon only needs 1 more shot, and it looks like the Zerglings are going after the Colossus there. The Banelings should just be trying to take down the natural expansion over here, and if it does another carpet bombing run, 32 workers killed already, as this 1 Colossus down to 1 hit point. That's actually pretty cute there, finally taking it down. 2 more Banelings dropped in, and there's the GG by Rine. So Rine now has lost 2-0 against DarkForce. DarkForce playing a very beautiful style of Zerg here, and it's looking like Zerg is making a very interesting comeback in the high level play. It always felt like Zerg versus Protoss, once they got up to Colossus and Stalkers, it was so difficult to stop. And Protoss was able to easily establish his fast expansion, but DarkForce, realizing that his opponent putting so much natural defense into this choke point here, would have a very weak opening here. I had simply wished that DarkForce had tried to do some carpet bombing runs into the natural expansion here. You can see how many probes down over here and how quickly they would have fallen, but 34 workers versus 48, or 34 workers with 48 units killed, and that is just so much to be had. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed this 1v1 replay and game 2 in this series. Stay tuned for game 3.